Basically, the old school rule is have a nickel between the clutch perch and the lever itself. We'll have steel, some will have aluminum, some will have a mixture of steel and aluminum. It just depends. These are two methods you can use to measure your thickness of your frictions and steels. They need to hand thread in as far as they'll go until the spring tension takes over. Oh, how long has it been? A month? Month since I've done a video? That's how long it's been. It's ridiculous, but I'm back. Super happy to be making videos again. Guys, it's been a hectic 4 weeks for me lately. Been wrapping up school, getting all of my stuff done that way. Had a super awesome school year. Super pumped about it. But it is back to the grind on the dirt bikes. Now, we're not gonna work on the KTM build. We're gonna work on the 450. She's sitting right here, all standing up on the stand, cleaned up, and ready for a top end. That will be the next thing on our list. Now, before we do a top end though, I really wanna take the clutch apart, or sorry, the clutch cover off and the clutch out, and check everything. Make sure that we're within spec. Show you guys how to go through that process so that you're like, oh, okay, you know, maybe I should replace my clutch before I actually burn the dang thing up. So that's what we're gonna work on today. I'm not gonna drain the oil out yet, but I am going to show you a method to do it without draining the oil. Basically, you tip the bike on its side, get it set up, and do it that way. So that is a method we're gonna go about doing it. Now, for those of you who have never inspected your clutch, this is gonna be a very detailed walkthrough on how to do that. I wanna show you everything that I can to get you to the point where you can basically pull it all apart, put it back together, measure everything, and know whether or not your clutch is within spec or not. So, why is that important? Well, let's talk about it. Clutch, your clutch. That is what takes your power from your motor, in our case, a 450, around 50 something horsepower, and transfers that to your transmission and then to the rear wheel. It is the joining component that takes all of that abuse. Now, this is the OEM clutch on this bike. I have about 130 hours on this bike, and you're probably like, holy crap, that's ridiculous. There's no way that's the original clutch. It is, because I only use the clutch when necessary. Now, I'm gonna make a video this summer on how to use the clutch properly and how to upshift, downshift, that kind of stuff. I'm gonna do a whole how to ride a dirt bike series because I think it'd be super beneficial for everybody. That being said, let's take this thing apart. Let me show you how to do it, and let me show you what you're gonna look for to make sure that your clutch is in perfect tip-top shape before you burn it up, before you grenade it, before you get grooves in your baskets, all that stuff. So let's dive in. Okay, first things first, before we actually tear into the clutch, I wanna talk about your clutch lever. Now, this is your adjustment on your clutch lever. Most of you know this. Turn it backwards and your clutch lever play gets extreme. Go the other way and it tightens it up. So as you have clutch fade, this is the way that you can adjust it. If you watch the pros in motocross, they'll jump their bike, and some of them will flip this and roll this with their finger or their hand to adjust their clutch tension because they're actually wearing out their clutch during a race. So especially the mud races. But anyway, so little info on that. Basically, the old school rule is have a nickel between the clutch perch and the lever itself. And basically that is just right here in that little area right there. And that's what you should have for play. So anyway, I like quite a bit of play in mine. Not quite a bit, but actually probably about right there. That's about what I like. So anyway, okay, let's get the bike laid on its side and let's pull our clutch cover off. Okay, now that we got our bike on our side, and make sure that you do have the gas off so you don't just drain out your carb. In order to get access to these bolts, we need to depress our brake lever and then shove something in the swing arm here, the swing arm bolt, and that will hold your clutch lever down, or sorry, your brake lever down and allow you to get to your bolts. So we're gonna back these out, just like so. Get all of our bolts loose, and by doing this, we will not have any oil get in the leak out of the engine. So do this just for our routine inspections. Now, a couple of these bolts, actually only this one, goes through to the inner clutch cover. This one too, sorry. And then the rest of these just go partially in. So I'll show you a trick to get those in the right spot when you get done. There we go. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is just remove our bolts holding our pressure plate on. These are 10 mil. Go ahead and just back these out. If you guys are interested in the impact driver I'm using, I will put a link to it down below in the description, and all the tools that I use, so go check that out. And let's get the last one out here, and we'll pull these off and then pull our pressure plate off. So as far as clutch components go, this is your pressure plate, these are your clutch springs and bolts. Okay, and then what we can do here, if I can get a hold of this, is just pull our pressure plate off. Our outer plate is coming with it. Okay, there's our pressure plate. And then right underneath the pressure plate, you're gonna have, depending on what kind of bike you have, but on the 450, you're going to have a washer, and then there is a bearing that just is sitting right there, and then your actual push rod for your clutch. So just go ahead and leave that in. Don't mess with it right now, because I mean, you don't have any involvement with it as far as the inspection goes. So pressure plate, set it aside. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull all of our plates out. So you've got two types of plates here on a clutch. You have your friction plate, which is this guy right here. And then you have your steel plate, which is the one underneath. Now, some makes and models will have steel, some will have aluminum, some will have a mixture of steel and aluminum. It just depends on what type of bike you have. Now, I want to talk a little bit about these clutch plates right now. As you can see, there is color to this still. It is not torched, it's not black, it's not burn up. There's nothing like that going on. So this is what you want to see when you pull your clutch apart. Now, I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. I have not had this apart in probably a year. So go ahead and pull all of your clutch plates out. Now, the easy way to do that, let me grab my pick, would be to grab a 90-degree pick, and that will allow you to reach down and grab all of them at the same time and pull all of them out. And then we can start looking at our clutch basket. And almost all of it, anyway. So let's get the majority of it here. Start with that much. Keep it all in order too, because you know, unless you're actually gonna replace it. I'm the guy that likes to take things apart and put it back together in the order that it came in. Okay, that is the entire clutch assembly right there. And we'll go through and we'll look at every single plate, every single friction, every single steel, and then we'll inspect all those. Okay, I'm holding the camera here, so bear with me. What I want to show you guys is a couple things. First thing I want to show you is if you look at the inner clutch hub, which is going to be this guy right here. Okay, as you can see, there's what looks like to be grooves or lines right there in that area. If I take my pick and I actually just run this up and down here, there is no lines or no grooves at all. That is where it's starting to wear into it just slightly. That's actually the material transfer from the actual friction plate to the inner hub. The steel plate to the inner hub. Now, that is all good. Everything looks fine that way. There's no issues there at all. The second thing I want to point out is if you look at the outer clutch basket, if my camera will focus, right there, you can see that there looks to be grooves once again. But if I run my pick across this, there is nothing. It is smooth. So that's what I was talking about material transfer, okay? Now, what you guys will see on some of your bikes and some older bikes, things like that have never had clutch work done, that have been ridden hard, these will actually groove, okay? And that is when you're going to start having issues. When these groove out really bad, you're going to have clutch engagement problems. So what that will do is that will keep your friction plate stuck in a position. So it doesn't matter if you pull your clutch in and separate it, it will stay engaged. Not all the way, but partially. Now, the same thing can happen here on the inner hub, and you don't want that. So if you pull your clutch apart and you have a bunch of grooves in here and a bunch of grooves in here, it is time to replace that, and preferably with like a Hinson setup or something like that, something that is stronger than the aluminum. So these are wear items. This stuff goes into your engine oil, which is then filtered, and hopefully if you're changing your oil consistently, you're keeping all the contaminants out of it. But in the meantime, this is a wear item, and this is coming apart into your engine oil. Now, as you can see, my oil still is nice and golden because I change my oil on a regular interval. That's why I have 130 hours on this bike, still running the OEM clutch, still have all the OEM clutch components in here, and everything looks great. So, as of now, with this clutch basket and inner hub, everything looks amazing. I'm not even going to mess with it. What I do want to point out, too, is one more thing. While you have this apart, go ahead and spin this and just kind of check to see if there's any kind of cracks or splits or breaks or any kind of wear anywhere that may be causing an issue in the future, and that will just, you know, be a good preventative measure. So, all right, we're up here on the workbench. We have a couple things going on here. First things first, I have my owner's manual with all my specs in it pulled up. I've got my digital calipers, and then I also have a outside micrometer here. And these are two methods you can use to measure your thickness of your frictions and steels, and also your free length on your springs, which are two things that we need to check to see if they're within spec. Now, most of you are not going to know how to use these or even want to get these, but you will have a set of digital calipers. I'll link down below where I got these. They're awesome. They work for 90% of the jobs on dirt bikes. So get you a good set of these. Don't get you a super, super cheap set, but get you a good set, and you'll be happy with these. So let's look at our tolerances here. Okay, the things that we're going to look at here are going to be our friction plate thickness. Okay, you can see 2.92 to 3.08 millimeters. We've got our clutch spring free length. That is the dimension that we want to hit. This is our limit. So there's a couple things we need to pay attention to. You've got your standard and your limit according to the Yamaha manual. Wow, I didn't even know you guys couldn't read that. Let's go ahead and do our clutch spring free length first. We'll measure that, and we'll see what those end up being, and see if we're within our tolerance of 46.8 millimeters. If we are below that, at that number or below that, we need to go ahead and order new springs to replace the ones that we have. Okay, we've got our digital calipers here, and we're gonna set it to metric right there. So we're in millimeters, closed all the way, zero it, and then we're gonna go ahead and check our clutch springs, okay? And we are at 47.98 millimeters, and our tolerance is 46.8, and it says that our standard is 47.8 millimeters. So we are in good shape on that one. Let's go ahead and check this one here. Pull it out, close it up. All right, go right in there. 47.95-ish. And these should all be the same. These should all be identical. There should be no difference between them. 47.99. Okay. Now, I'm not even going to go ahead and measure these because I know that they're going to be within tolerance just fine. Okay, regarding the clutch plates, what we want to do here is make sure our calipers are zeroed, make sure there's no trash in them. Okay, so I'll go to 0. They're good to go. Let's open these up, and let's go ahead and measure our friction plate thickness and see what our tolerance is. Now, according to the manual, our tolerance is 2.8 is our limit. So if we're at 2.8, we need to replace. But the standard is going to be 2.92 to 3.08. So if we measure this, put it right here, go ahead and measure that. This will focus for you guys. We are at, hold on. 3.04 millimeters. That is awesome. So that's within spec easily. Let's go ahead and check another one. I'm gonna keep these all in order just because I'm OCD. Not that it really matters, but let's go ahead and check these. 3.05, okay. Check another one. 3.06. So this is awesome. This is what we want to see. I'm very, very surprised that this clutch is in such good shape that it's within spec. 3.06 again. Okay, and there we are. Our friction plates are within spec. Our springs are within spec. And we can go ahead and check our steel plates too while we're at it. So these are going to be 1.1 to 1.3 millimeters. So go ahead and check these. Okay, 1.17, that's good. And then obviously the steels are not going to wear like the friction plates, 1.18. So that being said, we know the steels are going to be fine. The friction plates are what wear before the steels. So this is a great way to go ahead and introduce yourself to checking your clutch, checking your springs, making sure everything is within tolerance, within spec. And because we already checked our clutch basket and our inner hub, we know that those are in good shape. So I am very pleased to see that I can go back together with this clutch and have no issues that way. Okay, now I am going to say something regarding this clutch. The reason why it is lasting so long is, for one, my riding style, and two, my oil changes are very, very frequent. The other thing that is going to affect this too is the fact that I am using genuine Yamaha clutch parts. I cannot say enough about OEM quality parts, especially on these Yamahas. They are just top of the line, the best parts you can ask for. So, and you guys have seen my riding. If you watch my videos, you know I don't hammer my bike and trash it. So very rarely am I actually even feathering the clutch that much. So this is awesome. My clutch is in great shape. Let's go ahead and put it back together and seal the deal on this thing. All right, boys and girls, let's go back together with our clutch. Now, first thing we want to do is put in a friction, and then a steel, and a friction, and a steel. Alternate them back and forth, and you can't go wrong. Always start with a friction, and always end with a friction. You don't want steel on aluminum. You will have zero engagement. You'll just burn this thing all to pieces. By the way, the oil that I am running is Rotella T4 1540. It is not a synthetic, it is actually diesel oil. Now, I know that's gonna be like, oh my gosh. Jay Clark from Dirt Bike TV runs it. Lots of guys I know run it. Lots of guys I know will never run it because they think the only thing that works in these bikes is genuine Yamaha oil or Honda oil or Maxima or something stupid expensive. It's not the case. You do not need that. So just remember that. Okay, now that these are in, pressure plate goes on top like that. Make sure that you have all this in if you did take it out. Pressure plate on like so. Clutch springs are not directional, so you don't need to worry about anything that way. You should make sure they go all the way in. And once you get all the clutch springs in place, then you can hand start your bolts. Do not ever put an impact on these. They need to hand thread in as far as they'll go until the spring tension takes over. Because if you break this, it's game over. If you cross thread it, it is game over. Last thing you want is to have an oddball clutch with a spring missing or the wrong bolt in there or something weird like that. The inner hubs are very, very fragile. So, okay, get those in. Once you're to that point, go ahead and take our zip and just bring these down. Okay, torque on these is 7.2 foot-pounds, which is the equivalent to, I think, 86 inch-pounds, if I remember right. So, or 84, I can't remember. But do not, whatever you do not over-torque these. If anything, go to like 6 foot-pounds. Because they're under spring pressure, they're not going to back out. But what you will do is you will break your inner hub, and then you're out a couple $100. Okay, did the math in my head, should be about 86 inch-pounds. So I'm gonna go ahead and torque these babies. Crisscross pattern, like we should anything that we can do it in a crisscross pattern. All right, now that those are on, we can go back on with our clutch cover. These little dowel pins came out with the actual clutch cover. Take them out, go ahead and put them, back into the motor side so you don't accidentally drop it into behind the clutch, because then you're going to be hating life. Okay, and then go ahead and put your cover back on. And then the trick I was going to show you on these bolts, because you have the longer ones, if you're not sure which ones go where, if you put it in the wrong hole, it's going to be too long. Now, I know this is a very extreme, well, here, I'll show you on these ones, because these ones are fairly close to the same length. So that one obviously does not go there. It obviously does not go there. It obviously does not go there. Or there. Ah, there. You'll have the same amount of distance between your actual clutch cover and your bolt head if you got them in the correct spot. So like that, and then like that. That one obviously goes there, and then that one there. Now the spacing is the exact same on every bolt. Okay, go ahead and run these down to where they're snug, and then torque on these is going to be the same. All right, guys, she's back together, sitting up on the stand, looking sweet. If you're going in with a new clutch, say yours is out of spec and you're going in with a brand new one, make sure you soak the friction and the steels. That way you don't have a sticking dry start. Put them in a Ziploc bag, let them soak. Yeah, if you guys have any questions regarding anything clutch-wise and maintenance that way, hit me up in the comments below. Again, I will link everything down below, all the tools that I use, things like that, all the products. Go check that out down in the description. That'll wrap up the video. Another one in the books. Thanks for watching. If you guys liked it, give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.